If I really had to list my top 3 favorite Star Wars films out of the entire Skywalker saga, that would definitely have to be Return of the Jedi, The Empire Strikes Back, and Revenge of the Sith. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, by far, one of my favorite characters is Darth Vader, not just because of how tragic of a story, Vader's story really is, but because of exactly who he once was and who he becomes in the prequels and the originals, and that's why I love the character of Vader so very much, is that not just in the movies, but also exactly what they explore in the comics, the books, the novels, the video games, everything out there. Vader's story spans over 30 plus years, and a lot of fans just are very much, in tune with the character and love exactly what George Lucas did with him in the original trilogy, and how he tapped into Vader in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, with the Rise of Skywalker now just around the corner that will serve as the very ending of the Skywalker saga, I wanted to go over the original death scene of Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, when both Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas were actually writing the movie in 1980, 81, and 82, before they actually made revisions to the actual script before the finalized version of the movie was placed. Now, with that being said, what's really intriguing about this is that it's explained that back in 1980, when George Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan were first starting pre-production on Return of the Jedi, which was originally Revenge of the Jedi, was that they actually went through multiple different changes to the third act of the film that was very different to the version that fans know and love in its current state. It's explained that during the early drafts of Return of the Jedi, both George and Lawrence Kasdan went through numerous ideas of Darth Vader's demise. It's explained that one of the original endings of the film that involved a different version of Darth Vader's death was supposed to involve Luke Skywalker holding his father on the ground in a similar way to the final cut, where however this time the mask was damaged, revealing a part of Vader's face, where Luke would actually take the damaged helmet off of Vader slowly, to the point where Vader's full face would be revealed to Luke. Early drafts actually described that Vader's face as looking more severe with his burned injuries, than how it was done in the final cut of the movie, where Vader would begin to tell Luke more about his mother, who had no name at the time in the script by Lucas and Kasdan. As Vader was actually beginning to die, of course, Luke would cry when Vader would actually begin to die, where behind Luke, without knowing, would be the Force ghosts of both Kenobi and Yoda watching over him and looking over and watching over Luke during Vader's final moments before death. In the original script, Vader/Anakin was going to vanish just as Yoda did in Return of the Jedi. However, this was changed due to actually drawing out the emotion of Luke watching over his father's body, and could actually also explain why Lucas decided to do the same for Qui-Gon Jinn's body not vanishing in The Phantom Menace. In the original scene, Vader would hear an actual voice as he was dying that would be both Kenobi and Yoda guiding Vader to become one with the Force, where he is now Anakin Skywalker. Anakin would listen to both Yoda and Kenobi's voice to guide him to becoming a Force ghost, and that this is further explained in the Return of the Jedi novelization. After Anakin is successful at becoming one with the Force and transferring his consciousness into the netherworld of the Force, it's explained that the original scene involved Luke now staring at an empty set of armor and the suit of Darth Vader, after Anakin has vanished, where Luke takes the remains of Vader's armor and suit and begins to burn it on the Forest moon of Endor during the celebration. In this original segment, it was actually said that both Luke and Leia were watching over their father's armor and suit being burned in the woods of Endor, where they would actually progress to the main area of the celebration, where this time both Luke and Leia would witness the Force ghosts of Anakin, Kenobi, and Yoda watching over the Skywalker twins, before it cuts to credits. All of this was changed due to George Lucas changing certain rules about the Force and the Jedi, and how he wanted to also add in different emotion for some of the characters in the scene in 1981 and 1982. The scene was drastically changed to what the fans now actually see in the final cut of the movie. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, the thing about Episode 6 that's so magical to me as a Star Wars fan is not just because of what George Lucas wanted to do in order to end Darth Vader's story, as well as Luke Skywalker's story at the time, but to also explore exactly how Darth Vader would die. And Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas, they went through multiple different drafts in the actual movie in order to really kind of just test the waters to see exactly what the best scenario would be for Darth Vader's death in Return of the Jedi. Jedi. Now, the thing that I like about this, alright, is that this would actually involve more emotion between both Vader / Anakin, Kenobi, and Yoda, where Anakin would actually be able to communicate with Yoda and Anakin, actually seeing them above, or should I say in back of Luke Skywalker, over Luke's shoulder, where Vader would actually see both the Force ghosts of Anakin and Yoda, or should I say of both Kenobi and Yoda, watching over Anakin. Now, what I like about that is that this taps into the Star Wars lore. This taps into the Force lore of how one becomes a Force ghost, and exactly how one transfers their consciousness over into the netherworld of the Force. Now, a lot of these original ideas were actually transferred over into the official novelization of Return of the Jedi that you guys can actually read right now, and that was actually all inspired from the original scripts of Return of the Jedi by George Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan. And I can understand why they went through many different changes and adjustments for Return of the Jedi to really explore different elements of Darth Vader's death. You can really see how it was going to be a very sad moment for both Luke and Vader. In this cut, there was actually a segment in which Vader would actually vanish, just as Yoda did at the very end, or should I say toward the end of Return of the Jedi. And it really makes one wonder exactly, why George Lucas decided to make that big change. Well, it's actually said because he wanted to add in more emotion of Luke watching over his father's dead body. And that actually does make a lot of sense, because if you look at Return of the Jedi, it is very emotional, seeing Vader / Anakin just there, dead, without his mask on, as his son Luke Skywalker begins to cry as he lowers his head over Vader's. It's a very, emotional moment that George Lucas, I believe, did it completely perfect, and I gotta give credit to Lawrence Kasdan, because Lawrence Kasdan did an excellent job as well. Now, the thing about this particular scene that was actually going to make it to the finalized version of the movie before they actually had a lot of changes in the overall script is that Luke would eventually pick up the empty pieces of armor and the suit and bring it over to the world of Endor, to the forest moon of Endor, and burn it. So basically, this would actually involve Darth Vader's body not being burned alive, or should I say not being burned alive, but not being burned after death on the actual world of Endor. It would only involve the suit and the actual armor. And this would be a moment in which both Luke and Leia would actually be watching over Darth Vader's armor, and the remains of Vader's suit actually burning down to nothing. So that was another thing, another big change that you can see. It's a huge change in comparison to what we actually have right now in the finalized version of the movie. And it would even progress to a moment in which Kenobi, Yoda, and Anakin would be able to be seen by both Luke and Leia. If you guys look very closely at the end of Return of the Jedi, Leia and Han, obviously, they don't see the Force ghosts of Anakin, Kenobi, and Yoda. They don't see them. And there's a reason to that, and I'll actually tap into that in another video, but there's a reason as to why, Leia is not able to see the Force ghosts of the past, and that's exactly why George Lucas wanted to make the change. That's exactly why in the finalized version of the movie, Leia does not see Anakin, Kenobi, and or Yoda. Now, what's really emotional about this as well is that in this cut of the film, it was actually going to involve a more injured look to Anakin Skywalker / Vader on his face when the helmet was taken off. The helmet was actually said to be damaged, where it revealed a part of his face already from the Force lightning by Palpatine, where you saw a part of his face, which could very well be exactly what inspired them to use that concept in Star Wars Rebels when Vader fights Ahsoka Tano, where you do see his eye. Could be very well that they actually used that idea from George Lucas and the original scripts of Return of the Jedi. Now, like I've always said before in the past, my top 3 favorite Star Wars films is, of course, Revenge of the Sith, Empire, and Return of the Jedi. There's reasons to that. I love the story of Anakin's downfall into becoming Darth Vader. That's why I love Revenge of the Sith. The reason as to why I like The Empire Strikes Back, it explores the strengths and weaknesses of Luke Skywalker, as well as the truth of exactly who Darth Vader really is. And Return of the Jedi, I mean, need I say more? I love a redemption story. I love the whole entire arc of Darth Vader / Luke and how the son redeems the father. I think it's brilliant. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.